have a guest co-host that I have stolen away from her usual podcast. Just yeah. I can't.
That's
I don't
what
know.
you know. When you asked me what the season has been, it's definitely that those 2 seconds of us just shaking our heads, going, it's just.
Yeah.
So I hear it on a safety precautions kind of thing, but I definitely texted Nyasha, my co-host, and I was like, listen, there's gonna be a crash today. Whatever happens, safety car or not, there's gonna be a crash, because there always is, and you literally can't overtake, and there's always gonna be that one guy who thinks, can I do it?
Yeah. Especially in a race like Monaco, where you're pretty much set from quality and there's no chance for overtaking. You need that moment in the beginning of a race where somebody stalls or somebody like doesn't get away really well. And you need that to kind of mix it up a little bit, because Hi everybody, welcome back to On the Chicane. You're here with me, Paris, and not my co-host Marium this week. Marium is away on vacation, so I have a guest co-host that I have stolen away from her usual podcast. Welcome to On the Chicane, Thandie from Quickstop F1.
Hi.
I would
Hi,
do
guys.
the applause like Nyasha normally does, but I don't have that, so
it's all right. I mean, we haven't had the applause for ages, to be fair, because
it's
to Zoom, so it's hard to kind of get the sound effects, which some people are happy about apparently, because a lot of people didn't like our noises, a lot of the boomers, no offense, but some people are like, they're missing them.
Damn, I didn't know that, because I love the sound effects. I thought it was hilarious. So I hope you guys get them back. But yeah, so I mean, I know we have a lot of listeners that are probably quite like cross-pollinated and quite similar, but for those who may be hiding under a bush and do not have any clue who you are, can you tell us about Quickstop F1 and you and Nyasha and what you guys do?
Yeah, so I'm Thandie. I'm one half of Quickstop F1, who are aka the Black to Black podcast.
The Black to Black podcast.
The Black to Black podcast. And we are an F1 platform / podcast. And we are all about Lewis Hamilton and everything about Formula One. We're nice to who deserves to be nice. And we just jump on every week, and we give you content.
Really good content. I absolutely love you guys. I feel like you're probably our favorite. You are our favorite Formula One content creators. So it's nice to have you guys here, or have you here, and hopefully we'll do something with both you and Nyasha.
You guys have had Nyasha on here before, haven't you?
No, we haven't. So this is our first year really doing guest hosts actually. So usually, I mean, we've done a couple of little segments with people, but actually for our race reviews, this is a brand new thing that we're kind of testing out. So welcome into the fold. I think what you guys do is so cool, because the way you critique everything, you keep it fun, you keep it upbeat, but you guys still kind of get into all of the ups and downs of the race weekends, all of the kind of every aspect that's happening around the sport, right? Like you actually take all that time to do that every week. You do the clips. I love the clips, seeing the kind of mini fan cams that Nyasha does in between, and then usually you're like the voiceover on top. So what do you feel like you're known for? Like if they watch Quickstop F1, what's Thandie's like moments in Quickstop? What are you known for?
Okay, I feel like you're gonna tell me what you think. Okay, so I think I'm known for being the Quickstop queen. I do have the small little fan base who agree with my critiquing. I feel like my critiquing is different to some, but unapologetically honest. So that's probably what I'm known for.
When you say,
and I just sit there and I let. Okay, so in Formula One punditry, there is a plague, I would say, of people who go with a certain agenda that's being pushed by the typical European media, particularly the British media, And so the pundits regurgitate everything that's kind of being said on television. Whereas sometimes I feel you're watching something and you think something in your head and you're like, oh, I wish someone would have said that or someone would have mentioned that.
Yeah.
The person who mentions that, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to say it.
Yeah. You just give it to them real. Like, you just say, okay, whatever would have gone through my head, that's what you're saying on the screen.
Exactly. And I just think in a world where everyone's flocking like moths on a light bulb, why not be the butterfly on the windowsill?
Definitely. And you are definitely a butterfly. So I would have said, when I think of like Quickstop F1, I think of Thandie. I think of your quips about like just generally, like you said, the critiques. Like you come out with these amazing one-liners that sum everything up in a second. I think about like your metaphors. You're always coming with like you love a good metaphor, honestly.
I love a good metaphor, and I think that's because I'm a writer. So maybe that's where it stems from. I have a friend who always says I speak in riddles.
The riddles make sense. Riddles are confusing.
They make sense in the end.
Make so much sense. When you're like, you know, I think one of the ones you had recently was something to do with like sitting around a dinner table. I'm trying to think what the metaphor was for, but it just made sense, right? Like in the context of the moment, it made so much sense. And then I think the last thing, when I think of Thandie, I think of like your outfits. You always have like sick outfits or sick memorabilia. You've got a good collection of Lewis Hamilton t-shirts now, right? Yeah.
I'm glad actually. Okay. I'm glad that I got the certification for the outfits because I sit in the mirror and I think, what can I do today?
No, it's great. It's great. So how do you feel about the race season so far?
I guess on the podcast, I've been calling it a bit of a glitch because I am obviously a big Mercedes fan, but first of all, I'm a Lewis fan. So it is quite strange seeing Lewis on 8ths and 9ths and 4ths. It's a bit of a glitch in the system. But overall, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because I feel like all last year, we were kind of taking the piss out of certain drivers and teams, and we were like, when are you guys going to get your shit together? And now that they've got the shit together, it's like, oh my God, like it's happening. And now I think this season as well, I've kind of adopted new drivers as my faves because it's nice to kind of see at the same time while Lewis is losing and Mercedes aren't doing the best that we thought they were going to do. I think it's quite fascinating to see other drivers in their own shine and in their own prime, see what they can do when they're on podium, see what they can do when they're slightly hyped up. Because when you hype someone up, when you gas someone up, they do amazing stuff. So I think that's quite interesting to view for this season. But do you think it's been boring, Paris?
I wouldn't say it's been boring, actually. I've been pleasantly surprised by a few of the races. Like Barcelona was really interesting. I haven't fallen asleep yet, so that's always a good sign. Although I did take a little snooze during today's red flag, but I was awake by the time the race restarted. So I think generally it's not a boring season. And I think why it's not a boring season is because of the change in rules and regulations. So we don't know where things are going to go. It's never going to stay the same. Like one week you'll have Aston Martin showing up with the same car as a Red Bull, and you just don't know what's going to happen from week to week. So I think that's what's, for me, keeping it interesting is like everything that's happening off the track and then how that influences what's happening on the track.
Right.
But I think we still have a long way to go before we can say that this is really interesting racing, like just purely on race content. So I think we're still easing into it and figuring it out, but we are only like 7 races in now, so we still got time.
Yeah, I agree with you, honestly. Like we still have time. It feels like the Mercedes have actually only kind of got their shit together since Barcelona, so it's nice to now see what we're kind of gonna do within the next few weeks. I mean, the McLarens have kind of really got their shit up. I'm seeing Norris, we're actually seeing him on the cameras. So it is quite interesting. And you're a
Lewis fan.
Okay, but when it comes to the Ferraris, you are a side.
Oh yeah, I like no, so okay, what happened was I think I came
Mm,
on your pod, right? And
yeah.
I this was a long time ago. I can't think which race it was, but it was one of the races like mid last year. And all I said was that all I said was that Sainz was gonna finish ahead of Leclerc by the end of the year.
Right, right.
Just because I saw that he was being a bit more consistent and making a little bit less mistakes. So it was more of an observation, not necessarily about who I prefer as a driver over Leclerc or Sainz. It was just an observation. And I was right. I was right. Like, so
You
I
were.
don't think anybody can really like crucify me for that. However, I am happy for both of them.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think they do have at the moment one of the strongest pairs on the grid. So I think you know, Sainz and Leclerc both have the potential to do really well. I know Sainz has had a really difficult start, but you know, today even kind of quashed that a little bit and showed it a different side of him since the beginning of the year. So I think they just have a really strong team at the moment and a really strong car, and they can do a lot with it. But I'm happy for either, as long as it ain't Red Bull winning. I'm pretty happy. That's not even true because I love when Checo wins. So as
You
long
love
as
Checo,
I
yeah.
love
Yeah.
Checo, I'm so happy for him.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, okay. Last question before we get into the race. Sorry, because I could sit here and just chat with you all day. But you, like as you said, you are a massive Lewis fan. And
Yes.
last year, you know, you made Bottas your stepson,
Yes.
and you had a few like issues with the way he was driving and what he was doing, and you were apprehensive about George coming into the team. Do you still feel apprehensive? How do you feel now? Now that we've seen him go for a few races.
Yeah, so I was apprehensive about George, which to some people was misconstrued into being like, I am anti-George. No, I was never anti-George. I was just very cautious of who would come into the seat and replace Bottas and how they would work in terms of sportsmanship. Sportsmanship comes first, and that is what makes the synergy with these drivers. And
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, then you've got this thing where it's a driver versus a driver on the same team. And so I wasn't quite sure how it would work out, both being British, both kind of having the British media, because the British media will never take two people on, they'll always take one on. So I was kind of, you know, I wanted to see how George would take it, but yeah, I love George. I think he's definitely like proven himself as a driver. I think he's fantastic. Last week's race was absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. I was gassed. I was screaming at my TV. So yeah, I think he's definitely proven himself. And even outside of the race as well, you know, you have certain media outlets who'll try picture and take a picture of a them versus Lewis kind of thing. And I just think either George's got through really good media training, or he's just a genuine lad. It's so sweet seeing pictures of them as well when like Lewis was like starting out and George is this little fanboy who's like obsessed with Lewis. It's fantastic to see. So yeah,
You can
George
kind
gets
of
10
see
to
that
10.
his dreams are coming true, you know, like he's getting to race
Yeah,
alongside and not just
exactly.
race alongside Lewis, but be mentored by Lewis. And that's something that I've commented on a lot is that, you know, the team is about legacy now, isn't it? Like Mercedes, you can see that it's about legacy. You can see how they're working to support both drivers in their own way, right?
Yeah.
And I think that what you were saying about his media training, because a lot of the pundits always tried to like pressure him and be like, well, George, you know, you qualified ahead of Lewis there, and Lewis has had a bit of a bad weekend, but you've managed to have a good week. And you can kind of always, there's this kind of tone to it, isn't there? That it's
There's an
kind of,
agenda. It's an
yeah,
agenda.
it's an agenda, right? And I think one of the things that I really enjoy seeing from George is he doesn't feed into it. He doesn't let it inflate his ego and play to it. He's always like really saying, well, you know, yeah, I had a good race, but actually, did you notice that Lewis was lapping faster than I was? And did you notice that Lewis was trapped behind a safety car or stuck in a DRS train? Do you know what I mean? So I think I find that side of him really genuine, like you said, and I do
Refreshing, isn't it?
enjoy that.
It's refreshing.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So today's race was Monaco Grand Prix. We were kind of expecting a little bit of rain this weekend. Monaco is known for being a generally a bit of a boring race. There's not many opportunities for overtaking around the track. And pretty much where you qualify is where you end up, unless something crazy happens with a safety car or something like that.
Yeah.
But there was supposed to be rain this weekend, which did end up mixing it up a little bit because the rain arrived in heavy fashion. So rewinding just like a little bit back to quali, we had Charles Leclerc finishing on pole for the second time in consecutive years. But last year he did not start the race. And he's had a string of unfortunate sessions when it comes to Monaco, and he's not actually managed to start that race, but managed to finish 5 races that he's kind of been in Monaco for. So we actually did a poll this week, and we were like, you know, is Charles going to, is he going to finish this race? And actually he you know, the streets were saying that he was going to finish, and the streets were right. So you guys were all right. He did finish the race, but he didn't win. But he started yesterday on pole, and quali was like pretty good. You had Sonoda, who kind of like crashed a little bit, causing a red flag that ruined a couple of people's laps. For example, Pierre Gasly, who ended up starting in 17th. And then you had during the end stages of qualifying, you had Perez, who crashed into the barrier, and Sainz, who did not see the yellow flags and ended up crashing into him, and managed to stop the qualifying session a couple of minutes before the end. So a couple of other people, such as Lewis Hamilton, ended up getting caught out. But moving into today's race, everybody lines up, was getting ready to line up for the grid, and it started raining. Rain started coming down.
Rain came down.
There's confusion. Everybody's trying to figure out what tires that they're supposed to be on. Race control are trying to make a decision about when exactly this race is supposed to start. So it's supposed to start at 3 p.m. local time, and it was just confusion, honestly. And everybody ends up starting behind the safety car on the wets. So it was like, I think could have been a really interesting start had they all kind of maybe started on the enters. What do you think? Do you think they should have just started when they were supposed to?
Safety comes first, especially with that Monaco track. It's very it's thin, isn't it? And I got into trouble a few weeks ago about fat shaming the Mercedes cars and saying how fat they are. But they're big.
I mean, all the cars are huge.
They're fat, you guys. And this isn't the days of the, you know, when we have the thinner ones. This is now the age of really fat cars. So I hear it on a safety precautions kind of thing. But I definitely texted Nyasha, my co-host, and I was like, listen, there's going to be a crash today. Whatever happens, safety car or not, there's going to be a crash, because there always is, and you literally can't overtake, and there's always going to be that one guy who thinks, can I do it? Can I do it?
And the rain didn't help, did it? Like,
it didn't help at all.
You get the racing line after a while, after the track starts to dry out, and if you toe that line and you try and have a look and try and get around the cars, you do not know where you're going to end up, which is pretty much what happened today, because there was a crash, and Mick Schumacher in his Haas ended up basically touching a bit of wet track and spinning out and ending up in a barrier with his car in 2. Thankfully he was okay, but he was out of the race. So I mean, I hear you about the safety aspect of it, but I do think that they were very slow to react. So I think had they been faster, I do agree that, you know, we could have had a few laps of racing before the heavy rain.
I remember when I first started watching Formula One, my brothers would always be like, the key part of every single race is the start. Because you need to see the start. You need a fair start, and that's where it all goes down. And so it was quite disappointing to not really have a proper start without a safety car.
I agree. I think especially in a race like Monaco, where you're pretty much set from quali and there's no chance for overtaking, you need that moment in the beginning of a race where somebody stalls or somebody like doesn't get away really well. And you need that to kind of mix it up a little bit, because once you guys get going, it's just a procession more.
It's literally just now watching trains go past.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the whole race was stunted a little bit, and there was a bit of a kind of what's going to happen now. But the rain kind of came through and made it a little bit interesting, because you did have everybody onto the wet tires, because they had to start behind a safety car, which I honestly did not know was a rule, that if they start behind the safety car on wet.
Well, you know how Formula One is. We make up rules out of the wind. They just literally just float out.
But they finally get going, and it's a bit like a little bit processional until the track starts drying out, and then you get all of the teams trying to figure out, do we switch from the wet tires to the intermediate tires, or do we switch from the wet tires straight to the dry tires? So one of the people that called that straight away was Carlos Sainz. He was like, let's push out longer, let's go on to the slicks, let's basically skip the intermediate stage of the race and just go straight to the tires. And then he ends up kind of going into the pits, or Leclerc ends up going into the pits, because Perez and Verstappen go into the pits to go on to intermediates. So he tries to like go in as well and basically stave them off a little bit. But he ends up coming in after Sainz, and they end up double pitting both of them and completely messing up Leclerc's race.
They fucked it for Leclerc. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you swear on this platform. They fucked it. That's what you want to say. They effed it. Okay. I don't actually. Right. So here's the thing. Charles has a bozo gene.
He does.
A bozo gene that will come out sometimes. He'll be doing so well, and then he'll just do this bozo move.
Yeah.
This time around, I can't even blame him. It's not his fault at all this time around. He had a great thing going for him, and then they fucked it for him.
Yeah, literally. Charles wasn't putting a foot wrong. He managed to start the race. He qualified on pole, started the race, leading the race, and was actually having a really, really good race. He was kind of getting away a little bit even, and it was purely on strategy. And I don't know what they were thinking. Like, I think they were just thinking, if we let the Red Bulls go on the intermediates, then it's going to be a really tough race for Charles and Carlos. So they were trying to cover them off, but for whatever reason, it just did not work. And you ended up having Perez coming out first, and then Sainz coming out second, and Verstappen third, and Leclerc ended up in fourth after these rounds of pit stops.
I do think though, for Sainz, this was great, because for the past weeks, we've kind of been in limbo whether Sainz is actually as good as we've always said he was, or if it's kind of like a series of unfortunate events for Sainz. So it's now very, it's affirming for stuff like this to happen for Sainz, because it's just that little bit of recognition for him. So I am happy for Sainz. And I think, he's a smart driver. Very smart.
Definitely. Yeah. I think he did need, after a few weeks of not having been up there and not being able to show race pace. I mean, there wasn't too much for them to do race-wise this session, because they couldn't overtake, as we were saying. But the fact that he was up there, and the fact that he was in the mix, and he was like, a second behind Perez, and pretty much touching the back of Perez at many times in the race. I think that was really good for him. And then just generally, like, the redemption for Checo after Barcelona, leading the race for so many laps, and being in a position that was untouchable, really. Like, he made it all the way to the end of the race and won. Spoiler. But like last week, you had all of the issues with Max and him being on a different strategy, and I think this was almost a bit of a redemption for him. Like, look, mom, I'm here too, and I can
and I'm glad, you know, with Signs. I just think if anyone's got bad vibes for Signs, you have to be bad vibes, because he doesn't seem like a bad vibes driver. There's a lot more people on that grid who are bad vibes,
and we will get into that right now. Red Bull actually did their strategies on point, as always. I must admit, don't love giving Red Bull their props, but they never fail to react when it comes to strategy. You cannot fault them.
Yeah, we can't beat them. We're trying everything. We can't beat them.
We need to steal a couple of their strategists. I think that's the way. Since
that's
they
what we need to do, in it. Like,
way.
we do need to steal a bit of their strategists. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Elsewhere on the grid, you had Alpine. So you had Alonso. How do you feel about Alonso? A lot of people are not really happy that he's on the grid.
Paris, I tweeted approximately an hour ago. Let me get the tweet up. All right, okay. Here is my opinion on Alonso today.
Okay.
Alonso gets his monthly dose of serotonin whenever Lewis is close to him. He loves it. And that is how I feel about Alonso.
I think there is a lot of things he does. My mind instantly goes back to Hungary in 2021, where Lewis was trying to fight for P1, and Alonso was just like in the midfield. I mean, they were truly racing at that point in the race, but you know, Lewis was on the comeback trying to make it to the front, and Alonso was just not having it. I think he gets,
and then he did like a little press run about how I do think he gets
serotonin. I think he gets joy
from
putting Lewis in a difficult position.
You know, like when you used to play out and there was that you know, the disheveled house where you had the grumpy old man who used to live there. That's how I feel about him being on that grid. It's like he's a veteran. He's probably invested a lot in the street, in the city, so they've let him keep that house and that aesthetic while everyone's got new builds. But it's like, mate, like the kids want to play, give them back their ball, and he's like, I'm not giving them back their ball, and he gets kicked from like stabbing the ball in front of the kids. That's how I feel about Alonso. Okay,
I feel like Alonso is that guy, but he was the ex-champion football player, and he comes on the track and he wants to show everybody his tricks and how well he can get the ball into the goal. And for whatever reason, he doesn't score the goals, but he manages to tackle everybody and do his little tricks around everybody. And I think that's his game. That's what he enjoys doing at the moment, is just peeing everybody off.
He's just there for the shits and gigs. He goes home and he's like, did you see what I did to him? Oh, and he plots stuff and he's like, I wonder what would happen if I was ever behind this person. It's like, we know, you know what, there's no discouraging that Alonso is a legend. In Formula One, he is a legend.
He is.
He was brilliant in his heyday. But now I have always been this angry mob. I'm right at the front of, it's time to go. Okay? Yeah.
And I think with Alonso, so I don't enjoy him being on the grid because I do think he causes unnecessary trouble. Like, for example, today, he caused a lot of trouble for Ocon, who is his teammate. And that's what annoyed me, because the problem is he does well, right? He still came, I think, 7th today, right? So he still does well. And that's the issue. It's like, it's difficult to get rid of him because he is performing. But he makes life unnecessarily difficult. And even his teammate, who you would assume that he would supposed to be like helping, he backed Lewis up into Ocon today, and Ocon had a 5-second grid penalty, which means that Ocon ended up not a 5-second penalty, sorry. So it meant that Ocon ended up not getting any points, but he didn't have to do that. There was no reason for him to cause that trouble.
And I feel like at the same time when Ocon joined, we were very much, that's such a nice opportunity for Ocon for his teammate to be Alonso. Like, that's amazing. Learn so much from him. He's not teaching him nothing.
No.
He's not teaching him nothing.
Just teaching him how to be annoying. And just do unnecessary things. I think a lot of people are going to find it very hard to stomach what he did today, because even if you're an Alonso fan, you're going to be questioning why he's backing everybody up 30 seconds behind, to the point where the 4 people at the front of the race are now coming up through the pack. And he is not trying to teach nobody nothing. He is
maybe with Alonso fans, I feel like they're also quite like Raikkonen fans. We knew Raikkonen was an a-hole. We knew he was rude. We knew what he was like, but that was kind of the beauty of being his fan, that you'd accept if you like that. Yeah. So maybe I do know he definitely has a large Spanish fan base, massive. And I predict, that over 50% of them were very happy to see him do what he did today, especially with him defending against Lewis. They love that.
Yeah.
So
they say inject it into my veins. I want to see this all the time. I don't know. I think that just yeah.
That's what, you know, when you ask me what the season has been, it's definitely that those 2 seconds of us just shaking our heads going, it's just the season.
But I think it did make Lewis's race really difficult, and you know, Lewis has had a difficult start to the year. He is in positions that we are unfamiliar with seeing him in. He's 7th, he's 8th, he's 19th at one point, and you're just like, no, you know, I don't want to see you doing badly. But in every single race, to me, even as a Lewis fan, I think you look at it and you say, but there's clear reasons why he ends up where he ends up, right? It's not as straightforward as saying he's performing badly.
It's not. That is perfect. I love that line. It's not as straightforward as that, is it? I love that from Paris. That was a great line. Yeah.
So I think, thanks. I think that's the issue. Like yesterday, for example, in quali, you know, he was on a faster lap than the lap that he was on previously. Perez and Sainz end up crashing, quali gets stopped. So he doesn't get to complete his lap and perhaps be a few positions ahead of where he started. And every single race, you know, last Barcelona, Kevin Magnussen, Jeddah, there was a safety car. There's always something. And usually I think what I find difficult is I wonder if it was somebody else, how I would kind of be treating this. Because I could be like, oh, it's always something with you, isn't it? Like, oh, there's always a reason. However, obviously, as a fan, I feel so much empathy for him, having to kind of pick himself back up every single week and still like push the arse out of that car and get the points that he's got, because he's still 6th in the championship. It's not gone. Yeah,
still 6th. Subtle cry.
So yeah, like how what do you think, like how are you dealing, how are you coping, basically, is my question.
You know what, being an F1 pundit has probably made me cope with it a lot better. I found a grey hair the other day, and I blame it on becoming a F1 pundit, because it's not for the weak. But we had a really nice guest the other week called Vincenzo. He's in the States. He was lovely. And Vincenzo, if anyone doesn't know, he's very diehard Ferrari. He says Ferrari. And he's Italian American, and this has been a generational thing within his family. And so he was explaining how he was even there when Ferrari were literally bozos, and now they have a high. And so his kind of words really like reassured me that, you know, I'm always used to winning. I can't lie. I win everything. I'm a winner.
Okay, I can see that.
So me to lose, it's hard pills to swallow. But at the same time, babe, I'm a Liverpool fan. So, you know, you have your highs, you have your lows. I've been saying ride the glitch.
Yeah.
And after last week, seeing George kind of still get us in there, it gives me hope. It gives me hope. I think Lewis is going to win the championship this year? No. I don't.
Okay.
I don't. And but I've come to peace. I've had several therapy several sessions where I've had to come to peace with that statement
Yeah.
after what's obviously happened last year. I've had to come to peace with that. Yeah, that's how
I think the good thing is,
yeah.
I don't think Lewis is going anywhere. I predicted at the beginning of the season that should he win the 8th, he would have the option to leave. And I don't think, even from what I've seen, even if he did win the 8th this year, from everything he's saying, he wouldn't leave anyway. So we've got time. There is still time.
You're different, to be fair, because some people are quite scared. Like I know Nyasha keeps him up at night. Keeps him up.
Yeah.
Fever dream. He genuinely believes Lewis could just up and leave any second.
No, I don't think Lewis is. I think I would have thought, I thought that after Abu Dhabi. And I think from what I've seen, Lewis kind of was considering everything after Abu Dhabi. Had like that moment where he was wondering, and I don't think that's the case now. So I think we're cool. We've got time. I think as well, being a Lewis fan for me, having followed his career since he was in McLaren. So I don't know if you know my kind of ups and downs, but I was a McLaren fan for a long time. So I've been going from like team to driver and wondering, actually I want to do a video about that, actually, like, do you support a team or do you support a driver, and what's the differences? Because I think a lot of the younger watchers, a lot of the newer fans are going to find it interesting that, you know, when some of the drivers that they're really following leave, or they're not used to what we're probably used to, which is drivers that come in and come out like after a couple of seasons, and that's it. That's what you get of them. So I was a McLaren fan for a long time. McLaren was my team. And during that time, Lewis Hamilton drove for them. So for me, I've kind of been with him even when he wasn't, you know, winning every single championship and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not as pressed by not being on the high, because I've dealt with the lows before. And I think that's what some of the people who support him forget. Like, you know, there are ups and downs for every team, and it's just about the longevity of the person and their conviction and stuff. So don't worry, it's okay.
Worst case scenario, we have the same repeat of this next year. I'd be sick. I'd vomit. I'm sorry. I just don't think I continue on with sport.
Wow. Okay. let's hope that Mercedes get it sorted by then. Anyway, back to today's race, because we've gone on a little tangent just then. We also had the Alfa Romeos. So Bottas was doing pretty well. I think he was okay. Like he's generally been performing quite well in Alfa Romeo.
He has.
Yeah.
He has. I'll actually openly say that with the Alfa Romeo, he's champion on that side, isn't he? And that's what he's always wanted. So I'm happy for him.
He's number one now, isn't it? Easy number one.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, easy. And if he's happy there, I'm happy there. He tries to get in on the group chat with all the other lads, though, doesn't he? Like he tries to get in with like the Mercedes, the McLarens, and it's like, no, stay there.
He's a lot more friendly now, like off track, right? Like you see him kind of talking to everybody, and he's in a lot of social media and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, he's cool now. But I guess it's the pressure of being his teammate, isn't it?
Definitely. I'm glad he's happy.
Yeah. But then his teammate, Zhou, he actually had like a decent little kind of few corners with Gasly today. Don't think we've mentioned him pretty much for the whole season, because he's just been a non-entity.
Yeah, nobody mentions Zhou enough. I love him. I think he's fantastic. And I think everybody's kind of shifted. You know, last year we had this thing where everyone was really mean to Yuki because he was new. Now it's shifted to Zhou. Everyone's like, the Zhou guy, should he be here? And that's what everyone was saying about Yuki. And we're not so much saying it about Yuki now, even though there are a few, but he just needs to find his feet. I love Zhou.
Cool. I think, this is the first race that I've really given him any real thought. And seeing him defend for those few laps against Gasly as helped as he was by the Monaco track. So it's not like Gasly really had like lots and lots of opportunities to overtake him. But the fact that he was able to stay against Gasly, who is a seasoned driver, is really, really good. and he didn't finish last. He finished like I think 3 people retired, so Magnussen, Schumacher, and Albon, and then Yuki came last, and Zhou came 16th. So he's okay. He's doing all right. Yuki, on the other hand, I'm sorry, he's having a terrible race today. But I have hope for him because I think he had a tough year. He struggled a lot last year, but this year he's kind of getting
he did. Better. But it was literally just him getting his feet together.
Yeah.
Getting and he had a great teammate in Gasly, I think. I love Gasly.
But so that's pretty much the whole race. I mean, I feel like we've kind of gone around the houses and not been as like a little bit as straightforward. It's normal, but it was a weird race, right?
It's a very boring race. Yeah, it's a very, classically Monaco is not really that entertaining.
No.
You can always expect a crash from Monaco, and we got that. Gosh. Oh my gosh, Mick split that car in two. Yeah. That was frightening for a few seconds. And I think the rain was the worst thing to happen, but it was also one of the best things to happen to the race because it was entertaining.
That pretty much provided the entertainment. I think it would have not been as interesting a race if we didn't have those wets and those inters and the slicks and the tire strategies and signs and Perez and all that kind of stuff. Like, what would have the race really been without that? So yeah, I think that's kind of like the summation of Monaco is it's usually a boring race, but this week it was kind of an interesting race just because of peripheral things that were happening. But at the end of all of our episodes, we always do our winner of the day and our loser of the day. So who for you was your loser of the day this weekend?
My loser for the day is going to have to be the Ferrari strategy.
I knew you were going to say that. You took mine, but that was thinking.
So yeah, Ferrari strategy, because you really bottled that. That could have been so straightforward. You literally had it in the bag and then you just took it out the bag. It was really strange to watch. The whole thing was strange to watch.
Yeah.
And that's all down to them, not down to the drivers at all. And I think they need to come back and do better next week because it was in the bag. They gave it to you, they handed it to you, and you threw it away. Okay.
Literally.
Yeah.
Okay. I think for me, my loser of the day, I was going to say the Ferrari strategy team as well, so I'm going to say a different one. I'm going to go with Alonso because I think impeding your teammate is a foul. Like, you can't do that just because you want to mess with another driver for no good reason. Like, Lewis probably wouldn't have been able to overtake him anyway, just because of the type of track it was. So he didn't gain or lose anything from just driving normally, right? Other than just to be annoying and try and back Lewis up into Ocon, who probably wouldn't have been able to overtake him anyway and would have still ended up having to have a 5-second grid penalty. So to me, it was just a really dumb thing for him to do. And for that reason, he is my loser of the day. Winner of the day. Who is your winner of the day?
I think I'm going to continue on the Ferraris and I'm going to give it to Carlos Sainz.
Okay.
Well done. Because do you know what? If you look at, he's literally a Red Bull sandwich. And there's not many people who like those Red Bull sandwiches. That was Russell. Do you know what I mean? It's a horrible thing to be. So great on that. His after race interview was fantastic. And I just think continue the good work, Sainz. I'll back it.
I think especially he kind of redeemed himself as well after yesterday. Like, a lot of people were slating him for not seeing the yellow flag and like crashing into Perez at the end of quali. So I think it was needed, like we said, it was a bit of a buoyant
redemption song
race for him. And I'm going to give my winner of the day. I'm going to give it to Checo. I feel like this is a very standard. Usually we try and choose like people who maybe you haven't really thought of in the race. Like, I could maybe give it to Lando, but he was missing.
I was thinking that as well. I thought Lando and I saw
because like obviously he was sick last week. Yeah, he didn't really do much. It was a nothing race, right? So I feel like if it's a nothing race, I may as well give it to who I feel like truly just deserves my winner of the day, and that is the winner of the day, which is Perez. Like, he
Impressed.
he's got his third win. Like he's had what was it? I think Bahrain. What am I trying to think? Bahrain, Baku, and now Monaco. So he's got 3 good races under his belt. You know, he stuck it to his team a little bit. He said, you know, F you guys for what you did to me last week. And I love that.
I'm gonna take it. Yeah,
right?
I back that. Yeah, because last week was atrocious, and it was him fully being shagged on TV, and we all watched it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But tell us where we can find you and Nyasha. Tell us all of your social handles and where you
let me get the social handles out, because we do have a lot. So I can be found at Thandie Tweets, double S on the end, because there's another Thandie Tweets. She needs to delete her account because I am the original Thandie Tweet. And you can follow us on Twitter at Quickstop F1, and we are Quickstop F1 Podcast. We are available on Amazon Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and Beams. So make sure you check us out. Definitely. Take us with a pinch of salt. With a pinch of salt, please.
You guys will enjoy them. They are the most fun-loving podcast, and I feel like you guys, as much as you're Lewis fans, we should say that you are for everybody. Like I think any fan would definitely enjoy watching and listening, because you do really give like good, fair assessments of all the drivers and all the teams. So I love watching it. And we will drop all of your links in the section below. But leave your comments. We want to know what you think. Was Monaco a snooze fest for you? Did you enjoy the rain? What did you think of the strategies? Who were you rooting for? Let us know in the comments. In the meantime, follow us on the chicane on Twitter, Instagram, and make sure that you are subscribed. See you in 2 weeks at Baku, and thanks for listening. Bye.
See you soon.